Guys, welcome back to season 3 of How They Healed. If you're wondering what season 1 and 2 is, it's on this YouTube channel. Just scroll to the playlist of How They Healed. You can watch season 1 and 2. How They Healed was created because I healed from having a child at 19, 14 heartbreaks, 15 abortions, and a divorce. Today, I'm a cognitive behavioral therapist and a family life coach. I help people heal from trauma, emotional pain, dysfunction for a greater life of abundance and meaning. So subscribe to this channel so that you can be the first to watch when a new episode drops. Stay tuned for the rest of the episode.
I was taking about 5 bottles of Gouda per day, and I was taking at least 5 wraps of marijuana on a daily basis. He shot me here on the shoulder. He shot 4 times. Each bullet hit me and bounced off. I went to meet a friend to help me. And then when I got to the friend's office, he said, I knew you would come. He said, quickly help me call my mobile phone. I called the mobile phone. I found out that the mobile phone was right where I was seated. And then when the mobile phone started ringing, I took it up. Instead of me to find my name show up, it was my number. What I saw there was, don't pick, he's a beggar. We suffered so much that at the point we didn't have electricity supply in the house for 7 months. And then I made up my mind that the only way out of this thing.
Hi guys, welcome to How They Healed. On How They Healed, we bring you stories of people who have been through pain, because they come here and share their story of healing, story of resilience, story of growth, so that it can take you from a place of pain and brokenness to a place of power. And as usual, I am your host, Lara Kudaisi Donomo, popularly known as Dear Coach Lara. Today, I have a special guest in the studio. We're talking off camera that this interview is 5 years due. Yes, it's 5 years due, because he was supposed to be on the second season of How They Heal in 2020. But there was traffic that day and he couldn't make it, as God will have it. But today, 5 years after, hey, welcome with me, my pastor, Pastor Wole Olushola. He doesn't he will say, don't, when we are doing this, he will say, call me Wole Olushola. No, you are a pastor. So I must call you pastor. You are Pastor Wole Olushola. So thank you, Pastor Wole, for coming.
You are welcome, Lara. And I also believe that this is probably the right time to be here.
Yes, I believe so too.
The way God works things out.
Yes.
So I believe that this is the best time to be here.
I believe so too. All things work together.
I love what you are doing. And, I'm very, very proud of you. Because if it was by societal stereotype, you shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
But the truth is that our power is in our story. Our purpose, our destiny is in our story. So who better to be doing this than you? So you don't coach or therapize theory.
Yes.
You do practicals.
Yes.
You've been there.
Yes.
You know what people are going through. You know where the seat is pinching them. So you are the better qualified person to take people on that journey.
My head is swelling. Hey, thank you, Pastor Wole. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Pastor Wole wants to start preaching. Let him not start preaching here yet. So, Pastor Wole, one of the reasons why I wanted you to come and share this story was, I think, that interview I had with you at Beat FM, in 2020. And I remember then you brought me home and you shared your story with me. I think that day, my brain blew off. Wait, how? And I must have shared this story with at least 30 people.
Wow.
Yes, because I have never ever heard anything like that before.
Wow.
Never ever ever. So that's why I'm so excited, because this is such an honor. And so before we get into the real story, I'm gonna so this is how we do it here. I'll ask you, from the beginning. So from the beginning, when you were born, what kind of a child were you?
Well, I think this is the first time I'm being asked that kind of question. So Let me go back to the beginning. My dad is late,
Okay.
but every time I think of him, I have fond memories of him. You know, he was a medical doctor, but most importantly, he was a present father. You know, he was a very, very present father that allowed you to make mistakes. So if you look at me now, I teach people the gospel of grace,
Yeah.
which means that regardless of the kind of person, I must always see the good in them. You know, life is such that if you have 99% good points and 1% bad, the thing that people will focus on is that bad part of you,
Yeah.
and they'll forget the good. But even before I became born again, I learned from my dad how never to write people off, how never to judge people, but to always see the best in them. So I didn't know I was being trained. So every time I think about my dad, I remember those times when I was young. He would come home from the hospital. I would have slept in the living room, and then he would carry me gently on his shoulders and drop me on my bed. How we used to watch wrestling together. You know, he was someone that would yab you, you would also yab. So those are the memories I have of him. Now, I grew up in a family of love, both from dad and mom. But at the same time, it was also an aristocratic family. I'm from a royal family in Ibadan. So we were constantly in a glass house. Everybody watched how you behaved. You must never do this, you must never do that, you must be prim and proper. So along the line, I was also a mischievous child. So I think along the line, because of the mischief and the punishments that will come, not necessarily from within the house, I started losing my voice. So I pretended a lot. And in pretending, I gradually started losing my voice. I always became afraid of consequences. You understand? I always became afraid of consequences. And I didn't know that later on in life, these things were eventually going to affect me. Now, you know, from our training,
Yeah.
you and I have a lot in common.
Yes.
If you are not somebody who is into what we do, you'll never know that people inherit traumas.
Yes.
You never know that people inherit beliefs and mindsets. And so, you know, all of us have been programmed. We've been scripted. But the big question now is who scripted us? So these things were there for me. All the challenges I had growing up. But those things didn't really mature until when I had a major midlife crisis.
So thank you for sharing this. Before we go into the major midlife crisis, first of all, what position were you in your family?
All right. Now, I have a very important position in my family. I come from a polygamous home. My dad had 2 wives. But if they don't tell you, this is this person's child, this is my mom's child, this is my stepmom's child, you won't know. Because my dad created that unity. We live under the same roof. As a matter of fact, as a matter of fact, there are some things that I want to do. It's not my own immediate brother. It's not my own brother from the same mother that I'll tell to do. So there was that love.
Wow.
There was and there's still that love and still that trust. You know, because that's why. And even if we wanted it to end, the fact that it will start make my dad cringing in his grave, we won't ever do that. Yeah. So
That's so rare.
Yeah, very rare.
Wow.
But that was what my dad wanted us to do, and that was what we did. So I'm the first son. I'm my mom's first child, but in the whole family, and I'm the first son. Now, my father's side, I'm the first grandson. My mother's side, I'm also the first grandson. So I play a very, very important role in both families, especially when it comes to role modeling. So that's the kind of position I have. And you know, and coupled with the fact that I'm a pastor, everybody has come to trust me that we can always trust him to make the best decision.
So when you were in secondary school, what kind of, because you said you did mischief a lot and you pretended a lot. Were you I'm curious to know those kind of mischief that you were up to.
All right. I went to a military secondary school, command secondary school in Ibadan. Now, I was one of the youngest in class because in JS1 I was 10 years old.
Okay.
I left from primary 5. However, many of my classmates were 11 years old, 12 years old, 13 years old, 14 years old. So I was one of the youngest, and I was also small statured. However, secondary school is a war zone. You have to learn survival skills.
I agree. In
And
Nigeria.
you have to learn survival skills. And one of the survival skills I learned being the smallest was to always look for a way to get vengeance on people. So whenever anybody offended me, I'll look for ways to deal with them. I might just go to their wardrobes while they're having their baths and throw their school uniforms into the pit toilets.
Whoa!
Yes. So over time, I gained that reputation, and that's how I got my nickname, Ghost Baba. Because people will be like, I know you were the one who hurt me, but no evidence.
Yes.
So that's how that name came. And then I would also lead people to do crime in school. They would catch every one of them, but I would always escape. So after a while, that nickname stuck. This guy now Ghost, and that's how the name stuck.
Oh my goodness, I can imagine. But did they know at home?
They didn't know. They did not know. I carried myself. I was a good boy at home. They never knew anything. So when I was getting admission into the university in 1992, and then one of my uncles was giving me a pep talk, and he was a realist. He now asked me about show team bobin soon. As in, have you started having sex? I said yes. My mom was there. I was like, ah! my mom said, my uncle, I better keep quiet. Let me talk to him. So they never knew anything at all. So I was two-faced. I was a different person outside and a different person entirely in the house. And my house was the family was a kind of family that you could never even own up to the fact that you were that kind of person. Everybody was spick and span, prim and proper. There was a standard that, you constantly had. Remember where you are coming from. Remember the child of whom you are. And then one day when I was in UI, University of Ibadan, when I was doing one of the few occasions I actually went to read, I just saw somebody wrote a graffiti on the wall. Remember the son of whom you are. And then below that, make sure that you don't have bad friends. So I was like, I'm actually the kind of person my parents have been warning me against. I just laughed it off, continued with my life.
Continued with your. So how did you get into doing that? Have you started before you went into university?
No, I started taking it in university. I wanted to have a sense of belonging. And some of my friends were doing it. I didn't want to feel left out. I wanted to have that sense of belonging. And then, when I was growing up, I stammered a lot. Although you'll never know. However, as a young child, every time I kind of thought about my future or had dreams about the future, the only thing I saw myself doing was preaching. I would see myself talking to large crowds of people. So it didn't make sense. How was a stammerer going to be doing these things? And then I was chronically shy. So those two things made it impossible for me to live the kind of life I'm living now, using my mouth to make a difference in the lives of people. So my dad smoked a lot. So I made up my mind that I was never going to smoke. But when I got into university, I realized something that many of my friends were smoking, so I started smoking. And then the smoking gave me a kind of confidence. You
Because you
know,
were very shy.
yeah, I was
and
very shy,
quiet.
and it kind of brought a level of intoxication that gave me confidence. So I started smoking. And then I found out that what smoking would achieve in 30 seconds, achieved in 3 minutes. So I took it for the first time. It made me feel good, and I loved it. So I started taking it regularly, and I started taking beer. As a matter of fact, I was taking about 30 sticks of Benson and Edges per day. I was taking about 5 bottles of Gouda per day, and I was taking at least 5 wraps of on a daily basis. As a matter of fact, let's assume you came to me that goes Baba, I never chop. I'm feeling hungry. I won't buy food for you. But if you tell me that you want to go and drink, let's go and smoke, I will do that. So I loved that feeling. It gave me confidence. Confidence to be able to express myself to girls without the fear of anything. You know, at a point in time, I loved Bob Marley so much. I used to listen to Bob Marley, and I realized that every time I listened to Bob Marley while smoking, it was as if I was always transported to another realm where I'll be seeing Bob Marley.
Inspiration.
Yeah, so I loved it.
What?
I never ever wanted to stop it. But guess what? The day I became born again, because my born again experience was not because I was preached to. I had an out of body encounter in which I went into hell. And, you know, if I go into that, it will take the whole interview. But as I was about being ushered into hell, I said, Lord Jesus, have mercy on me. If you save me this time, I will serve you forever. So that's where my passion comes from. The passion from preaching.
Yeah.
That's where it comes from. And the Lord saved me. I just went back straight into my body, because at that point in time, there were 2 of me. The physical body was lying on the floor, and then the spirit man who lives eternally had gone to that place. So as I was about being ushered in and I prayed that prayer, I just went back the same way I came, and that's how I got born again. Now, when I got born again, I never tried to stop smoking. I never tried to stop smoking Benson and Edges or drinking Gouda. They left me.
Wow.
They left me. You know why? Because the encounter I had was genuine.
Wow.
So they left me on their own.
See, my head is still spinning. First of all, the 30 sticks of cigarettes per day. How old were you? Were you not feeling sick? Were you not like, how do you get up?
I got born again July 6, 1996. I was 21. I was 21 years old when I got born again. And up till now, I've never taken those things again.
Wow.
So all the things I'm telling you were between the age of 18 and 21.
Wow. That's so profound. And then you now said that you have, what happened for you to have that out-of-body experience?
All right. So it was 1996. I was in the University of Ibadan. But in those days, there were no private universities. So it was either you schooled abroad or in the federal universities. So there was ASU strike. And we had been at home for about 6 months. So it was just play football, go to parties, chase after girls. And then July 6, 1996 was a Saturday evening, and a friend of mine came to visit me at home. So when he came to visit me, I decided to see him off. And then we got to his house, you know, the way boys. And then we saw some young guys in front of his house. And they came to meet us. They said, is daddy at home? Those boys could not have been more than 17, 18. And at that time, we were about 21. And we said, yes, daddy's at home. What do you guys want? That was the day I understood this thing in Yoruba, that one word yenyo, as in dragging.
Jesus.
Because the next thing, those guys brought out guns, and they dragged us by the waist and led us inside. And when we got inside, the first thing they said is that we are army robbers. They didn't even say armed robbers. They said we are army robbers. Oh, and they started asking for, they looked at my friend's dad. They pulled him up with his agbada, dragged him up and gave him a dirty slap. He still didn't understand what was happening. And the next thing, they started asking for jewelry. And then my friends one said, we don't have. And then one of them pointed to a photograph hanging on their wall. That what of the jewelry you wore
In this
in
picture.
this? And the next thing, the guy cocked his gun and shot my friend's mom straight in the head. So fortunately for her, he wasn't good with the gun. So when he took that shot, his hand shifted. So instead of the bullet entering, it just grazed her head and went straight into the ceiling. And
Wow.
that's how they started robbing everybody.
Wow.
So one of them now came to me and quietly took off my wristwatch and wore it immediately. And then he asked, he said, do you have any money? I said, no. But in my pocket that night, I had 800 naira. And that 800 naira was for 20 bottles of Gulda that night. And there was nobody that was going to stop me, so I lied to him.
You lied to armed robber
I said I didn't have.
because you wanted it to be
Yes,
Buddha.
nothing was going to stop my phone that night. And then
Hey.
the guy searched my pockets
And so
and saw the money. He said, you lied to me, you will die tonight. And then he cocked his gun. He cocked the gun. As he was about to shoot, I said, you this guy, you talk too much. Shoot if you are going to shoot. Every man dies once. I was scared of nothing.
You were already high on marijuana?
I was already high.
Oh.
So I wasn't bothered. But as he was about to pull the trigger, he said, I know your life is already wasted. He said, but let me give you a chance to pray to God. Maybe he might accept your miserable soul. So as soon as he said that, I just started hearing that voice. Your father and your mother are not here. Even if they were here, they can't save you. But remember, all those who call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved.
What?
And at that point in time, a screen just appeared in front of me.
Wait. Armed robber, we gone.
Yes.
He had not shot you. It's not like you're on your way to heaven. He has shot you.
He hadn't shot me.
And all of this was happening.
It was happening. And then a screen just appeared. I was the only one seeing it. And on that screen, I just saw my whole... It didn't take more than 10 seconds. I saw my whole life, second by second, up to that point. Right from there, everything I had ever done just flashed before me on that screen. And then, within 10 seconds, I saw that there were two of me. One was lying down. Everything was still. And another one went up through the ceiling until I found myself on a waste ground. And then I started being led towards the pit of hell. That was what happened that night. Eventually, when I told Jesus that if you can save me, and I went back into my body, everything just started moving again. As soon as everything started moving again, something just hit the gun out of that guy's hands. He picked up the gun and then looked at me and said in Yoruba, Ọlọ́run yọ ẹ́, meaning you are so fortunate, I would have wasted your life. So they left. They locked us in the house. Some passers-by came to rescue us. So that night, when I got back home, I locked myself in my room and wept.
Of course.
And it was at that point I gave my life to Christ.
Jesus.
The next day I went to church. When they made the altar call and I came out, I could hear a lot of whispers. Maybe it's after a babe. People like them don't get born again. But I got, yes, because apart from all those things, I was also very, very bad. There was a particular watch night service in my church then. They told everybody to bring out a candle and light their way into the year. Since I wasn't a regular church member, I was someone who only went to church once a year. Yeah. I didn't have a candle, so the only thing I had inside the church was a stick of Benson and edges. And that was what I lit until some ushers quietly ushered me outside. And then most times when I wanted to light up the marijuana, I will put it in my mouth, hold the lighter before lighting. Bless this food, O Lord, for Christ's sake. So that was the kind of person I was. So when I came out for the altar call that night, people believed that it was for an ulterior motive. That maybe there was a babe I wanted to impress or for whatever. But as at that point in time, I was convicted. I knew that that was It was either Christ or nothing.
Yeah. That's, I don't even know what words to say. That's phenomenal.
Yeah. So you can understand why, you
Yeah.
can understand where the passion is coming from.
Yes.
And I'm sure you can understand why I teach the gospel of grace.
Oh my goodness.
Because I've been there. It's an experiential knowledge. So that's why no matter how bad a person is, I never condemn
there,
them.
oh God, oh
I
my
never,
God.
I don't condone the bad behavior.
Yes,
But
but
I also
the person-
understand that you should not judge people. You should not condemn them. They know they are bad.
Yes.
That's not what they want to hear. What they want to hear is the solution. What they want to, they have not come to meet you to tell them that they are sinners. What they want is help. What they want is the way out. You know, when Jesus saw that woman caught in adultery, John 8, he said to her, he knew she was an adulterer, but that was not what that was what everybody had been telling her. He said, neither do I condemn you. He said, where are thine accusers? They said, they are all gone. And he said to her, neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more. He gave her the gift of no condemnation. You see, a lot of people want to give people truth and then grace. But what Jesus gave her was grace and then the truth. He addressed her problem and then told her the truth. People will tell you, go and change, and then will accept you. But he accepted her.
Before she even changed.
So it was that acceptance and the love that changed that woman.
Now I get it. Ladies and gentlemen, you will not understand. Pastor Wole runs an online church. It's a church, It's a church, but it runs online.
It's online.
You understand? Grace Life.
Grace Life Church. And we have Unveil where we pray daily. Every weekday.
Yes. I join this thing every day. I'm telling you. And the reason is because Pastor Wole and his wife, Pastor Lola, they, run this program, this church. And you could, just like he's saying, there's a different passion when he's preaching, when he's praying, when he's talking. It's contagious. I'm telling you, And I literally dragged my husband into it, for he was like, I beg, no, I'm not. He had another one that he was doing. I'm like, no, sweetheart, come and do this one. And today he's addicted,
I know.
What? Because you can see, now I get it. The passion is different.
That's where it's coming from.
Yeah.
I myself and my wife have something that guides us. It's called OVA. Okay. Originality, vulnerability, and authenticity. So you will see that those are the things we express.
Yes.
We let people know. Yes. Although we are pastors, we still have challenges like you too.
Yes. That is what blows my mind about these people. Like, they will share. Pastor Wole will share his stories. Like my husband was telling me, Grace Life, that he will come and say, hey, sweetheart, come and hear what I heard today. Pastor Wole was sharing. I was like, you don't know anything. Like, so that makes it very practical.
Yes.
You understand? For a lot of us, because you can see people that, yes, they are pastors, they pray, but they are also humans. You get, and they show it. They don't pretend.
No, we are works in progress.
That's it.
We are just people that Christ has helped.
Yes, I like that. And talking about work in progress, I know this part of you. You got married. You were a banker. And then what happened, Pastor Wole?
All right. So I started my career I did my youth service in Central Bank. And then from there, I got my first job in First Bank. So I was in First Bank for about 5 years. And then I got into Guarantee Trust Bank. I was heading a branch then, and I was doing so well. And then one day, a friend of mine came to meet me and told me about a certain investment bank, BGL. He said that they were looking for experienced branch managers. This was about 2006, 2007. That would I be interested? So I said, what's the name? He said, BGL Securities. I had never heard of them. So I said, is it a security company? He said, no, securities as in capital market. I said, okay, let's see how it goes. Meanwhile, as at that point in time, I was in GT Bank as Spamda branch. Trade Fair Complex.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was there. And
What year was that?
This was about 2006, 2007. And
Sorry that I'm cutting you
No
short
problem.
because I was in Equity Bank, BBA.
wow, are you
Yeah.
really? Well,
This is so fun. I was in Equity Bank
in
that
Aspanda
year.
branch too?
No. So you know, Aspanda is different from BBA. It's just close to each other. There's
Yes.
BBA Trade Fair, then in
Okay.
front, you understand, just 5 minutes away, or it's
Okay,
Aspanda.
okay.
So I was in that BBA, Balogun. What do they call it?
Balogun business or
Something.
something.
Do you understand? I'm just continue.
Wow.
I'm just.
So, I was living in Oregon then. Now, every night driving back home, I will get to Toyota. You know where that Toyota is?
Yes, of course.
And every day, there will be traffic there.
Yes.
And there were armed robbery
robbers. Yes,
operations.
yes. I lost a lot of
So,
friends on that road.
yeah, there were armed robbery operations. So, I was already getting tired because I never told my wife. There was a particular day where I was caught in that armed robbery operation. And before I started driving home that day, the Lord said to me, start meditating on Isaiah 54:17, no weapon formed against you. So I was just meditating and affirming it in the car. And then I got into that traffic that night. And then suddenly I saw people started leaving their cars, bolting out.
Yes.
There was nowhere for me to run to, so I stayed in the car. And the next thing, I had a knock. I looked out. I saw a thug with a gun in his hands. He said I should wind down. And I wound down. He said, your wallet, your ATM card, your money, your mobile phone. He said I should submit them. It was as if a different spirit came upon me that day. I said, I'm not submitting anything. He said, if you don't submit it while you are alive, I will take it after I kill you.
Yeah.
I said, it's not going to happen. Meanwhile, I had one of my tellers beside me in front, Benga he was seated there. And then the next thing, the guy just cocked the gun and shot me 4 times. He shot me here on the shoulder. He shot 4 times. Each bullet hit me and bounced off. He was going to continue shooting. He suddenly saw that he had run out of bullets. He looked at me, looked at my shoulder, saw that I was alive, dropped the gun on the floor. He said, you are not a human being. And he took to his heels. It was that night that I knew that the space under the glove compartment in front, passenger side, could contain a human being. That my teller had practically packed himself there. And after the whole thing became silence, he started tapping me. Oga. I said, I'm alive and well. I'm alive and well. That doesn't mean that tomorrow I should stand in front of a armed robber and tell them to shoot. But as at that point in time,
wow,
the Lord delivered me. So when I preach, you can understand. Look, I'm not teaching about a God that I was told about.
Yeah, that's what you always say.
I am teaching about a God that I've experienced.
Yeah.
You know, the person that has seen rice, the person that has had a bowl rice, you can't compare them to the person that has tasted it.
That's it. And I must add that truly on that road, I have entered one chance. On that road.
Notorious road.
On that road, I lost more than 4 phones.
Yes.
I have seen a lot of people in my office, like my HOP back then, was pushed down. You understand? After robbing, on motion.
Notorious
that
road
was deadly at the time.
Notorious
that was
road.
how I begged to be transferred to VI.
Yeah. So when that happened, and my friend said there was an opportunity in PGL, I said, let's see that I might be interested. Within 10 days, I was employed.
Oh.
Yeah, within 10 days I was employed, and the salary was about a 50% increment on what I was earning in GT Bank. So that's how I moved into investment banking. And when I moved into investment banking, it was so easy to make money. You can just see a stock rising, you invest in it, and you make money within 5 days. You probably have made 20, 25% on your money. So everything was going on fine. And then after I had worked for like 3 months, salary was increased by 100% again. Because BGL was the best, was quote and unquote, arguably the best paying institution in Nigeria then.
Wow.
So I had so much money.
Oh my God.
And because I'm a generous person, I was also helping people. So I now saw an opportunity to invest one day. So I decided to go for the kill. It was a mobile stock. So I now took some loans to add to the cash I had, tens of millions of naira in 2008. I invested. But unfortunately for me, I invested at a time that people were dropping the shares, they were taking profits. So all those shares were dumped on me. To cut the long story short, I lost everything. And I lost everything. And then it was a loan. And then because the market was fragile and volatile then, my company also did a salary review and decreased our salaries.
Decreased?
Yeah. Yes. So, and because I was more or less a management staff, you know, the higher you're on the ladder, the higher your percentage of salary reduction.
Yes.
So, I was still able to repay the loans.
This was 2008,
2008,
right? That was when what
the
we call
capital
tsunami.
market,
Yes.
the tsunami.
Yeah, that's what we called it.
Yeah.
The amalgamation of banks.
Yes. So there was a major financial upheaval there. So when that happened, I was still able to repay the loans. But apart from that, there was really nothing left, just enough to live by. So all things like I'm going to work, maybe I want to travel abroad, those things became history. So it wasn't even a choice of whether I wanted to repay or not. It was deduction at source. Now, when I got that loan, the interest rate was 13%. But one day they wrote, they were making it 15%. Wow. Another time they wrote, they were making it 17%. After that, they stopped writing. God. But at a point in time, I was paying 21% per annum, plus 2% quarterly management fee, making almost 29%. Then it became 23%. So I will see my credit alert coming. But the credit and the debit alert were coming in simultaneously.
Yeah.
So I didn't even have a choice. It was deduction from source. So after a while, although I didn't understand then, I became depressed. And at this point that I became depressed, I was still the one leading the prayer team of my church. And at full strength, the prayer team was between 5 and 10,000 members. So it was a mega church on its own.
Yeah.
So prayers were still being answered. I was still ministering to people. Their lives were changing, but I was depressed. I will go to the office, motivate the team. They will go out, bring back results, but I was depressed. Every time I sat alone in the office, it was as if the walls were caving in. There was always that envelope of darkness. I was totally depressed, although I didn't know. And then one day, you know these things, that when depression sets in, your cognitive faculties start shutting down. It will even get to a point whereby you are only 3% able to cognitively make the right decisions. Yes. So one day, without knowing what I was doing, I just tendered my resignation letter and left the job. My final payoff was enough to pay off the loans. But after that, I was left with nothing. And I had told my wife not to work because I wanted her to be able to have time for the children. I would do all the work.
Yeah.
And then give her an allowance. And we had so much. You see, at that point in time, we did bulk shopping, 6 months at a time. So I was depressed and suddenly resigned the job with no money. And then that was when the suffering started. We suffered so much that at a point we didn't have electricity supply in the house for 7 months, all because we could not afford to pay a bill of 25,000 naira. You understand? And we didn't have light for 7 months. There were times there would be no food at home.
Wow.
From 6 months bulk shopping to no food at home.
No food at home.
I used to pay my children's school fees long before the new term. But many times my children were sent back from home because we didn't pay school fees. There was a day that my wife went to drop. So we became creative because the school they were going to then, we found out that they would always check for school fees defaulters between 7:30 and 8. But by 8, they would go back in. So myself and my wife always targeted 8:10 to drop the children at home.
They won't check by then.
But one day, they found us out. So my wife went to drop them. 20 minutes after, my wife and the children came back home. They were crying. We had never faced that kind of embarrassment before. They came back home. And then we didn't pay house rent for 2 years. House rent was something that I could afford to pay from 1 month's salary before. And we still have more than enough. So, no food to eat, couldn't pay children's school fees, no power, and then we are given a quit notice. So when we are given that quit notice, I went to meet a friend to help me. And then when I got to the friend's office, he said, I knew you will come. He said, quickly help me call my mobile phone. I called the mobile phone. I found out that the mobile phone was right where I was seated. And then when the mobile phone started ringing, I took it up. Instead of me to find my name show up, it was my number. What I saw there was, don't pick, he's a beggar.
That's what he used to save your name.
Yes.
Don't pick, he's a beggar.
He's a beggar. So when I saw it, I looked at him. He looked at me and shook his head.
He wanted you to see it.
Yes. And I just left. So as I was driving back home, I started thinking about my life. I started thinking about my childhood. I was born with a silver spoon, such that we never asked for anything. Our parents provided things ahead of time. Now, you know that there are 4 things you must never do. You must never give way to anxiety. You must never give in to fear. You must never give in to worry. And then there's one that comes in stealthily, self-pity.
Yeah, that's the worst.
Self-pity, it's the worst because you think that you're helping yourself. So I sank into self-pity. And then I made up my mind that the only way out of this thing is suicide. That the suffering is enough. The shame is enough. The embarrassment is enough. The reproach is enough. Let me end it here. You know, there's a saying in Yoruba that Ikuya Jesin law. Ikuya Jesin law, that death is faster than shame and reproach. You understand? That kakaki gbajumo jale, Ikuya Jesin law. That rather for the elite to steal, you rather take his life. Because suicide is more honorable than begging or stealing. So I made up my, and you know, for a lot of people, it's not as if I didn't have good friends, not as if I didn't have family, but I had kind of exhausted my goodwill. I had become a burden over and over again. Go and look for a job, blah, blah. So, and we were in ministry. It was at that time you were with us in church.
Yeah,
but most times when we went back home, it was to no food. You understand? But it never showed. We are still
we're
blah,
still
blah,
praying. Me, I will come and sing.
Yes.
You know?
So I made up my mind that day. As I was going home, I bought some poison that was going to end it all. So I got home. When it was about 10 p.m., there was no lights. We never had lights. My wife fell asleep in the heat, so I quietly kissed her goodbye. Then went to my children's room. When I got there, I saw those innocent children sleeping. And then a voice told me, it must have been the Holy Spirit, these children have done nothing wrong. The only thing is that you gave birth to them. So don't dump this problem on them. Because suicide doesn't solve the problem. Yeah. It only dumps it on innocent people who live with that stigma forever.
Yes.
So my heart court. Innocent children. My son was just 5 years old. This was 2012. My daughter was 2 years old. So I went back to sleep. But did I really sleep? But when morning came, 7 a.m., my phone rang. And when my phone rang, it was Lanre Olushola.
Yeah.
And he said to me, he said, Baba, he said it in Yoruba, Ọlọ́run ní kí n sọ fún ẹ pé kò tíì tán fún ẹ. That he still has plans for you. He said, God said I should tell you it's not over. I still have great things to do with your life. I said, great things. I'm suffering. There's no food. He said, you know what? Come for a coaching certification. If after the coaching certification nothing changes, you are free to go and do whatever you want. So I went for the coaching certification. It was on the third day. It was a scholarship that the light bulb moments came. And it was in that light bulb moment that I discovered what was responsible for what I was going through. I had allowed the negative feedback to unknowingly become my reality. I had with my own hands rewritten the script of my life. So where there was hope, I was in hopelessness. Where there was confidence, I was in a lack of confidence. So that light bulb moment came. It wasn't as if things changed overnight, but I began to see things from a different perspective. Yeah. And that was how I was able to start that journey. You understand? So when we are doing therapy, I'm very careful to tell people that their lives don't change overnight. It's a process. Yes. But if you imbibe the principles and the tools, and you are faithful to them, you are going to end on that journey. So that was how I was able to start that journey. And that's what got me to where I am today.
Ha! Like, there's something significant for me here. Because you are a pastor. Like, people would think, how can a pastor go to this?
It's not by title.
So meaning that there are lots of pastors that will be depressed?
Possibly. And they won't seek help. Because they won't be vulnerable. How will the congregation take it if they find out that I'm going through this? But see, vulnerability is not a weakness. It's a strength. Yes. It's a strength. It's a strength, being vulnerable. You know why? Asking for help is not weakness. Asking for help is not a lack of faith. It is wisdom. Yeah. Now, the alpha male, from the definition of the Bible, the alpha male is not the person that has a six-pack. It's not the person that has it all together. It's that man that can say, Lord, I need your help. That is the alpha male. And you will see it in the life of King David. He always went back to God. Lord, many are they that are after me, but my eyes are on you. I have no help. So I saw it in the Bible that the real alpha male is the person that says, Lord, help me. And the moment you say, Lord, help me, you die to self, and then grace comes in. So that's why we can say, when I am weak, then I can say that I am strong. For his strength is made perfect in my weakness. For his grace is sufficient for me.
This message needs to go around the world, especially to men, alpha males, like you said, because Africans see it as, me. I'm going to be telling people my problem.
No.
How were you able to make that decision?
See, there's a saying in Yoruba, ẹni Ṣàngó tójú ẹ̀ bọlẹ̀ kò ní bá wọn pọ̀ bá kòso. That if the God of lightning has performed his acts in your presence, he has disappeared. You won't join them in looking for him. I know what it means to be rich. And I know what it means to be poor. I know what it means to have. And I know what it means not to have. So I've seen life from different perspectives. And these are the things that have actually equipped me as a pastor. So when I'm teaching as a pastor, I'm teaching from different perspectives.
Yes.
I have my pastoral hat on,
Yes.
my life coaching hat on,
Yes.
I have my therapy hat on, and then I also have the experiences, but I frame everything through the Word of God. So I'm able to help people out of whatever they are going through. Because I've been there. I've sat where they are seated. And so what I'm not saying I'm Jesus Christ. But you see, when I'm working with people, what I'm practicing is what the Bible says in Hebrews 4:15. It said, and 16, it said, we have not a high priest who cannot be touched with the feelings of our infirmities, for he himself was tempted in every yet without sin. Yes. Let us therefore come boldly before the throne of grace, that we might find mercy, that we might obtain mercy and find grace. So what people are going through, I've been there. And I survived that journey. So I know how to help them to navigate it. So like I said to you, when I'm working with clients or when I'm working with members of a congregation, I'm not teaching them theory.
Yes.
It's practical.
Yes.
I have been there. So I worked with somebody one day. And for the first 3 sessions, I couldn't connect with her. She will come to the room and throw tantrums. And sometimes even abuse me. And one day she threw that tantrum. I didn't say a word. And when she was done, she said, won't you even talk back? I said, no. She said, why? I said, I understand what you are going through. That was how I was able to connect with her. And she just broke down in tears. It took 3 sessions to be able to connect with her. He said, you are the first person that truly understands me. And that's how I work with people. And that's why, so when I do therapy with people, I combine it with scriptures. Because I know where they are coming from, have been there. So I'm always attracted to people like me, people who are going through what I've gone through, so that I can show them the path out of that dark pit.
Wow. And that is what makes me find Grace Life so rich. You understand? It's so, I just keep saying practical. It's so, like you could see everybody, and I like the fact that you give people room to talk. The way you guys run it is different from what I've ever experienced in my life. It's like a people church.
Yeah, we love people.
So
we love people. And without, they say it, where there is no vision, the vision perish, the people perish. Yes. And where there are no people, the vision perishes. So look, when we are going to start ministry, the Lord told me so many things, but he said something. He said, you are not in ministry to be served. You are there to serve the people. He said, when you serve them, you are serving me, and I will exalt you. So that's where the understanding of how we'll deal with people comes from. Everyone is a dignitary. Everyone is royalty, regardless of their present circumstances. We don't see them the way we... Now, all those times that I was messing up, taking marijuana, God never saw that person. He never saw the Saul in me. What he saw was the Apostle Paul. Because when God looks at us, he sees us not the way we are, but how we can become. So if you look at that prodigal son, he was the one who stopped seeing himself as a son. But to his father, he was always a son. My son who was lost, my son who has been found. He was always a son. That's what grace does. And that's the way we also see people. Everyone is just going through an experience. So the only thing that can bring people back is grace. Now, when you tell people that I'm a grace teacher, the first thing that comes to them is that grace is a license to sin. But you see, they see grace as a license to sin because they have not studied the Bible well. Now, when you look at when you look at the whole of Romans 1-5, Apostle Paul was talking about the believer's present reality, about what Christ has done for us. He now said in Romans 6:1, because of all these things, shall we continue in sin that grace may abound? Now, the New Testament was written in Greek. So when you see, he said, shall we continue in sin? That word sin in Greek is amatia. Hamartia. And amatia means preservation sin. So what he was saying is this: now that we know all Christ has done, shall we continue in sin without becoming born again? That's why. So technically, that Romans 6:1, he wasn't addressing believers.
Oh my
So shall we continue living this lifestyle and say we don't need God? He said, that's why he said, God forbid.
God forbid.
God forbid. So grace is the only thing that can save people.
Pastor Wole, you just preach this. You just preach. Like, my brain is just blown. I remember when you were sharing the story with me first time. You told me you fasted for...
Okay, there are so many stories. When I had that financial breakdown, at a point I thought it was demonic. And because I was, you see, the father of modern management, Peter Drucker, he said that when a carpenter sees a problem, he thinks it's a nail and brings out a hammer.
Yes.
An intercessor. When I had financial breakdown, of course, I thought it was a demon. I didn't know it was my programming. So I believed that the way out was through prayer and fasting. Now, I fasted for 730 days. Now, it was easy to fast. You know what? In the first place, there was no food at home.
Food at home to even eat.
So fasting was natural. I was trying to bind the demon of poverty without understanding then that it was mindset. As he thinks, so
is
easy.
he.
And then after 730 days, I had gone from 81 kilograms to 65.
Wow.
The Lord said, why are you fasting? I said, I want to come out of this. And I want to see you. He said, why do you want to see me? I said, because I know that if I see you, my story will change. He said, what makes you believe that your story will change? I said, because you send me a word. You speak into that situation and it will change. And guess what the Lord said? He said, if I appear to you, the same word that is in the Bible is what I will tell you. He said, if you don't believe the written word, you won't believe me when you see me. He said, so it's not me that you need to see. Go and sit with the word.
Hey, wow.
Go and sit with the word. Apostle Peter said something. I think it's in 2 Peter chapter 1. He spoke about their experience with Jesus. He said, we saw him. We were there on the mountain of transfiguration. Paraphrase by, we touched him. We lived with him under the same room. He said, but however, the experiences we had with him, they are not as powerful as the written word. Which means what we need is not to see Jesus, is to sit with the written word.
Wow.
And that was what changed my life. If you don't believe this written word, you won't believe the appearance. You won't believe. You won't believe. He said, Thomas, John 20, you believe because you have seen me. He said, but blessed are those who have not seen, yet they believe.
Wow. So, Pastor Wole, this is a whole lot. But I'm trying to look at time. So, when you said your life started to change after that coaching certification, how do you mean? What started to change? Is it that money started coming in?
No, it was mindsets. I learned how to, first and foremost, change the scripts in my mindset. So instead of seeing problems in every solution, I started seeing solutions in every problem. Instead of defining myself based on the existing reality, I started defining myself based on what Christ had said. Now, I am not what my bank account tells me. I am not what I'm going through. I am what Christ has said. I'm not where I'm coming from. I'm where Christ is taking me through. It wasn't easy.
Yeah.
Because you see, one of the most difficult things to do in this world is to change mindsets.
Yeah.
However, I knew if I didn't embrace it, I would never be able to go through. So I rewrote the script of my life. Meditation, affirmations, I kept telling myself. And that was how I was able to tell that journey. You know, people tell me that, Pastor Wole, at times when you are teaching, it's as if you should cut our heads open and dump this knowledge there.
Yes.
Because it's a conviction.
Yes.
I'm convicted and convinced about the gospel that I teach because I have experienced it. And that's why it's so easy for me. When I'm doing therapy for people, I ask them, do you want me to do it from a biblical perspective? And all of them say yes. And the results are always amazing.
Of course.
They're always amazing.
Of course. And I always share, I've shared it with my staff once, that one of the affirmations that you lead us to do or led us to do back then was, my business is not my source. God is my source.
God is my source. I've actually created the affirmations. That one about the Lord is my source, it's on my YouTube page as well, Olushola. Now, you see, every other source can die.
Yeah.
It can be destroyed. So you see, what you are doing as a means of livelihood is a resource. It's a channel. But the real source is God. And you see, when you start saying God as your source, you understand that you are operating by the economy of heaven.
Yes.
Which is not subject to central bank, Bretton Woods.
Or America, or China, or Russia, or
God
Ukraine.
is the source. What you call your means of livelihood is a channel. Because God doesn't dash people money. So he needs a channel of blessing.
Yes.
So that's why the person that doesn't work, God will find it hard to bless him. But when you work and you are directly under that source, he starts blessing. I'm trying to meditate on something. I'm trying to get light in an area. Do you know that you can start walking in so much revelation that your storehouse never gets depleted? That was what happened to that woman. The reason why the cruise of oil stopped flowing was because she ran out of containers.
Yes.
If she had more containers, it would have flowed. So there's a mystery. And the same mystery was what made Jesus to multiply the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes. So I want God to give me that revelation so that I can impart it into people.
Yes.
Because God is our source.
As in, that changed my life. Because let me tell you today, it was a struggle for me. When you say, my business is not my source, I'll be thinking, what else will not be my source? But the moment I was able to let go, Pastor Wole, that was the first time ever that people started dashing me money.
Let me give you an analogy. Look at this bottle of water. It's probably about 75 cl. So if I keep drinking it, it's a resource. If I keep drinking it, after some time, it will run out. So I'll ask them for another bottle. But let's imagine that this bottle was connected directly to the Atlantic Ocean. What would happen is that it would never run out because it's connected directly to the Atlantic Ocean.
Yes.
So when we say God is our source, we are connected to a source that can never run out.
I'm telling you that blew me away. That changed, because you know how I grew up, where I'm always working, I'm always the one doing stuff. So I always believe, this is my business, this is where God is going to bless me through. The moment I was able to let go and say, God is my source, people dashed me. Different people started. I would just see credit alert. I just said I'm like,
That's the spirit, because you can work and have nothing to show.
Yes. Absolutely.
But once you realize and you embrace, you accept that truth, that the Lord is your source, you'll never know dryness again. You see, your bank accounts is not what you are worth. So when you try to determine your worth or your value on what is in your bank account, it's a big mistake. Yeah. See, I'll tell you something. If you know what God is worth, that's your real value. You know why? When the price for your sins were going to be paid, he couldn't use gold. He couldn't use diamond. He couldn't use any resource in this world. They were not valuable enough. That's why he said in Matthew 16:20 that what shall it profit a man if he gains this whole world and loses his soul? You know why? Because your soul is much more valuable than all the riches of this world. So the only thing God found valuable enough was himself. So your value is what God is worth.
See, this is Sunday series. Trust me. This is a whole lot. But Pastor Wole, before we close this thing, because I've learned a whole lot. I quickly want to play this game that we normally do at the end of the. So I'm going to be asking you trivia questions.
I hope I get them.
You will. Yeah, you can. Pastor Wole, let me tell you people that don't know him. Pastor Wole is an encyclopedia of the Bible, of the word. He can quote 65 scriptures in 5 minutes. I have never ever met. I think you and Bishop David Oyedepo are those two people that
as a matter of fact, let me tell you this. I got that impartation from Reverend George Adegboye. I sat down under him and he was just quoting scripture after scripture. I desired it. And he said, let me tell you my secrets. I said, come on. He said he meditated on John 14:26 for 3 months. When the Spirit of truth comes, he shall teach you all things and bring to your remembrance all that I have said. I said, come on. If you did it for 3 months, I will do it for 6 months. I did it for 6 months, and then my life changed. And then Bishop Oyedepo, I put his picture on my picture and kept it in my Bible for 6 months on Proverbs 21:27, I think, as face answer, Proverbs 27:17, as face answer to face in water, so does the heart of man answer to man. So I told God, the knowledge in this man, let it answer to me. And that was how my life changed.
Oh, wonder. Hey, Pastor Wole, an impartation. Jesus. Let's go through another impartation, because these things are biblical trivia.
All right.
So, number 1, who built the ark to survive the great flood?
That's not now. Genesis 6.
Yes, so Pastor Wole put scripture. 2, what was the name of the garden where Adam and Eve lived?
It's the Garden of Eden.
How many disciples did Jesus have?
12 disciples.
What did David use to defeat Goliath?
A sling and a stone.
Which woman is known for turning back to look at Sodom and turning into a pillar of salt?
Lot's wife.
What holiday celebrates the birth of Jesus?
Christmas.
What do you call the person who leads a church service?
Let's say a pastor.
Yes. Which book of the Bible has the most chapters?
The book of Psalms.
Yes.
150 chapters.
Hey, Pastor Wole. The Bible, so this is true or false? The Bible was originally written in...
Well, the Old Testament was written in Hebrew, and the New Testament written in Greek.
What's the shortest verse in the Bible?
Jesus wept.
John 11:35. I
Jesus
know.
wept.
Of course, you're going to get everything. So this or that. When it comes to preaching, do you prefer topical sermons or expository sermons?
I'll say topical, but there's no way you can do the topical without exposing it, without doing expository teaching.
Of course. So, what do you prefer between, when you're doing Bible study, Old Testament or New Testament?
New Testament.
Why? Because of grace?
Yes, because that's where the gospel of grace is, and the New Testament is where the life of the believer is really explained.
That's very, very true. So, when doing outreach, what do you prefer, door-to-door evangelism or community service events?
It's a combo of both.
Of
Depending as the occasion demands. We've done door-to-door. We've done community service, so it depends as the occasion demands.
So worship, when it comes to worship, do you prefer hymns or contemporary worship music?
It also depends. At times, hymns, for example, immortal, invincible, God only wise, powerful, most blessed, most glorious, the ancient of days. So it all depends.
Yeah.
Then, my hope is built on nothing else than Jesus' blood. You understand? So it all depends.
Yeah. Ministry challenge, counseling sessions or administrative work?
It also all depends. Counseling sessions, and I'll tell you why. Okay. At times people just don't get what we are trying to counsel them about. So much discouragement and so many. But the truth is, the administrative stuff, get a team.
Yeah.
Don't micromanage, and they'll make your life easy.
That's true. That's very true. So, biblical figure. Which biblical figure do you relate to most?
King David.
Why?
Because he's the epitome of my own story. Grace. Yeah, King David. And after that, Apostle Paul, the apostle of grace.
They actually gave two, options, but I wanted you to
mention. King David and Apostle
Peter
Paul.
Or Paul.
No,
so
Apostle
you'd have picked Paul. Sermon preparation, early morning or late night study?
It depends. But if you call me to minister somewhere, depending on the notice, I'll prepare the sermon same day you told me, even if it's in a month's time. However, on that day, or while I'm preaching, the Holy Spirit might change, or not that might, he always changes the sermons. But I'll still prepare as a dutiful person. And most times, once I'm giving the topic, by the time I sit down, it just starts flowing.
So no time. Time is not,
no
morning
time.
or night is not.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Okay. So when it comes to church events, do you prefer potluck dinners or small group Bible studies?
small group Bible studies because of the Acts of the Apostles model. You know, the church in Lara's house, the church in Ted's house. So I prefer the small groups. And you see, in the small groups, you're able to easily know what people are going through. So if somebody doesn't come, you can easily know. And then minister to the person and be there for them. But in a large church, you might not know.
So which one do you prefer when it comes to spiritual discipline, prayer or fasting?
I'm an intercessor.
Yeah.
I'm an intercessor by calling. So I love to pray. I love to pray.
Okay, so leadership style. Which one do you prefer between Moses as a humble leader or David as a passionate leader?
David.
Why? Why so?
Because that's my own story. Vulnerable leader.
Yeah, it's true. You're very passionate.
You know, vulnerable leader. He was passionate. I love people. This guy risked his life for the sheep by facing a bear, by facing a lion. If you've watched Animal Planet before, you'll understand what it means to face a lion. It's not for kids, you know. So, so David, that's the kind of leadership style I love.
Wow. Thank you so much, Pastor Wole. We've come to the end of this show. So I want to say, first of all, thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome.
You know, you did everything I was hoping you would. I'm so glad you were able to share this story because I know that especially men, a lot of men need to hear this story. And I was going to say, but maybe when I bring Pastor Lolade in future, I was going to say, how did she cope all through that, you know?
She's a wise woman. And if there's another opportunity to come into this world, she's the same person I'll marry again. You know, my wife told me something during the heat of those challenges. She said that when we got married, I made a vow. In sickness, in health, in prosperity, in poverty. She said, I'm going to keep that vow. I'm going to stay with you. This is not the man I married. I believe in you. And I know that that man that I married is going to come back. So she took ownership. She didn't see it as my problem. She saw it as our problem. And during those times, anytime she was able to make money, because she had to go into catering, I was the one that she would give the money to spend as I deemed fit. So when I talk about my wife, eulogize her, it's not that I'm a sissy. People don't know where we are coming from.
Yes.
She's a good woman.
Thank God, Pastor Lolade. How long have you been married now?
We'll be 20 years in January.
Whoa, there's going to be a party. You cannot say there'll be no
we've
party.
Been 20 years in January, out of which we've known each other for, in that January, we would have known each other for 26 years.
Okay, I remember you shared.
I've known her since the year 2000. And you know, I was 50 in April.
Yes.
But we couldn't do the party, which we'll do in December.
Okay.
Late December to be precise, because most of our family members, they live in the States. And everybody wants to come.
Wow.
So we said that we're going to do it in December.
Masoli, please. I must get invites, yo. Hey, we shall be there.
Okay, you want to get another one?
Another wish one.
Another invite. Because you already have one.
I already have one. I can still get another one. So thank you so much for coming. What will be your last word for anybody that is watching this? How they feel now?
Well, my last word will be that whatever you go through in life, keep the faith. You know why? Weeping may endure for a night, but rejoicing comes in the morning. So make sure it doesn't endure for more than a night.
Keep the faith. You've heard Pastor Wole say everything. Keep the faith and make sure it doesn't endure for more than a night. Meaning do something about it. Do something about it. He fasted for 2 years. When I heard that, my brain wanted to explode. How can a human being, you've heard him share that, and look at him today. Look at how robust he's looking, how fresh, because he has been able to endure and healed and found grace and help on his journey. And this is for you too. If you're going through something currently, look at him. Use him as example. You can watch this. That's one of the things I do when I listen to his message. I go back to YouTube. I watch over and over to get everything he's saying, because there's so much wisdom, there's so much grace that you can tap from listening to him and his wife. So thank you so much for joining me this week on this episode. Till I come your way next week on another episode, keep enduring, keep listening, keep watching. See you next time. Bye for now.